Well, here we are, end of the month, which means that it's also the end of our March LinkedIn Madness mini-series. I hope you enjoyed each of the episodes. They were all very unique and had lots of great information for marketers, salespeople, and executives alike. Today, we'll be recapping key themes and takeaways from the episodes as a whole. And we'll also talk about new features, particularly marketing-centric features that LinkedIn has recently added to the platform. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, TREW Marketing. TREW is a full-service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit trewmarketing.com. And now, on with our podcast. Hey, everyone, and welcome to our final episode of our March LinkedIn Madness series. We've gotten to the end. Wow. Well, today I'm joined by Julia Fellows. She's an inbound marketing specialist at TREW Marketing and a friend of the show. So happy to have you on, Julia.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Wendy.
So Julia's listened and watched intently every single episode. And today we'll be talking about trends and top takeaways that she is leaving this series with and plans to implement in her own professional life at TREW. And perhaps personal life too, huh?
Yes, definitely.
And to that end, Julia, you were just sharing with me before we hit the record button that you just posted your first LinkedIn story. Tell me about that.
I did. So stories are a new feature on LinkedIn. They just got launched last year, and they're very similar to stories on Facebook and on Instagram and like a Snapchat, where it's like, it's just a quick behind the scenes look. It's a good opportunity for you to show people not just like what you're doing, but like the behind the scenes of how you're doing it and things like that. So going into this episode, I had taken a lot of notes on everybody's episodes. And so I took a picture of my laptop monitor, and I have, about 30 sticky notes this size pasted all around my screen so I don't forget everything.
I love it. I think that's a great way to keep eye contact.
Yes, exactly.
With your virtual camera and have all your notes right there. Love it. I'll have to go check that out. And then also we almost rescheduled this because you had kind of a stinky thing happen to you last week.
Yeah, I had COVID. I couldn't believe it. I work from home. I don't go hardly anywhere. I go to the grocery store and back and maybe pick up food somewhere, but that's it. And so, we really don't know how I got it, but, luckily it didn't hit us that bad. And, my boyfriend, of course, was stuck home with me too. And that helped a little bit. And being able to work from home, once I started feeling better, even though I couldn't go out into the public, I could still get some work done. So that was good. And we're all feeling better now. So.
Well, I'm so glad that you had a mild version of it, if you will, or at least mild reactions. So glad to have you back. You were the first and knock on wood only person at TREW Marketing that's had
knock on wood for that one.
So hopefully we can get out of this soon.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's dive in, Julia. Where would you like to start?
Well, I think let's start with SEO. And SEO on LinkedIn works, very similarly to search engine optimization on your website. And there are different ways that you can optimize both your brand profile or your brand page and your personal profiles. A optimized brand page that, just having all of the information available filled in offers like 30% more engagement. So just if you have a brand profile that just has the name and like location and the industry, that's not enough. You need to have your About Us section filled in. It needs to be very robust. Use keywords throughout your posts and throughout your About Us section to get people in who are interested in different topics. And then posting regularly is a huge thing too. Just like Google's algorithm for search engine optimization, the more frequently you're refreshing your content, the better. But a caveat to that, in one thing, I believe it was Scott who brought this up, and I've noticed other people mentioning it. You want to post as often as daily, but you don't want to post more than once a day.
Don't use LinkedIn like Twitter.
Exactly.
Or so Instagram for that matter.
or Instagram. So LinkedIn, the algorithm doesn't really favor posting a lot in a single day. It kind of starts to look like spam to LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So those posts don't get promoted and shown in people's home feeds very often. But you don't have to post daily. A lot of the brands that we work with at TREW, we help them generate content to be posted on LinkedIn maybe 2 to 3 times a week. And usually that's a pretty good cadence. What you can do to supplement that is making sure that you're sharing content that's relevant to your brand, or commenting on different posts, or liking your partner's posts, things like that. So it's not just about posting and what you're posting. It's also about how you're engaging with others on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, before I want to talk a lot more about engagement, because wow, that was a big theme. But going back to the profile, boy, that seems like such low hanging fruit, but I'm with you. I'm surprised how many companies haven't taken the time to fully, populate that profile and even create pages for major products or solutions that they offer. So there's a lot of opportunity to have expansive pages on LinkedIn.
Right. And if you're focusing on your messaging, on your website, on your blog, in your other marketing materials, it shouldn't be difficult to pull this together. You can pull things from your image library for your cover photo. You can, look at the About Us section on your website and then borrow some of the language there in your About Us section on your company or brand profile.
Perfect. Easy to implement. Everybody run off and do that if you haven't already, because it won't take you long, and 30% bump. It's
huge. It's huge.
Good. Yeah. Well, let's talk more about engagement, because wow, I think every single person that came on had some form of talk, at least when in regards to organic, of the importance of engaging within your network. And there are a lot of benefits to doing that.
Yeah, so engagement is definitely a two-way street. You can't just be posting all of your own content and liking all of your own content. What you want to do is you want to like, you want to comment, you want to share others' content as well. It should be relevant to your audience, because especially like company executives or your employees, the beauty of their profiles is that when you comment on something, anybody you're connected with also sees that you commented on it. So you want to comment on relevant things and things that other people you're connected with will be interested in. So you want to respond to comments on your posts. If somebody says nice work, that's a great opportunity for you to say, hey, what did you think of this other thing that was in the article? Or, so just kind of starting conversations and, adding, when you share something from another page, don't just share it with a little bit of context and some comments so that people can see not only that you're interested in this topic, but also, what do you think of that topic?
Yeah. And I'll give you a really cool example of this that happened to me recently.
Yeah.
As you know, we publish an annual research report on how
Mm-hmm.
technical buyers, what their behaviors are in terms of marketing
Yeah.
and sales. And someone in the semiconductor components industry
Mm-hmm.
shared one of the specific findings. And so he pasted in the
Mm-hmm.
chart within his LinkedIn page and he
Mm-hmm.
tagged me in it. So, already I follow him, but it
Right.
helped me to realize he was starting a conversation about the research. And all these people started commenting and asking questions. And so it gave me the opportunity to answer additional questions. And it spurred off so many conversations that the original poster, his name's Michael Knight, and actually he'll be on the podcast in a few weeks.
Awesome.
But he added a second chart to further educate these people, and more people started responding. And it was just this really cool dialogue. So it wasn't, just all self-serving. It was really like, let's all talk about where we were surprised and where this, validates some assumptions that people are making. So, not every post is like that and gains that traction, but when it does, it's nice to, be helpful with others. So.
Yeah, it is. And it's important to remember that LinkedIn is first and foremost a networking site. I think brands and, marketers, we tend to forget that it's not just a place for us to repost our blog posts or, post ads to try to get people to come to our website. And then, beyond that for like personal profiles, a lot of people use it as a job seeking tool. And I think it's easy to forget that you're there to have conversations with other professionals.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're right. Those kinds of posts that start those dialogues, those are the ones that do well.
So, Julia, do you think that then there's a role for educational content in general within LinkedIn as people are looking to not only network, but perhaps seeking education? So is that a good way for brands to come in and engage?
Yeah, I don't think there's really a hard and fast rule per se, but one thing that we at TREW recommend for all of our marketing activities is you want to be 90% educational and 10% promotional. So the content that you're sharing it shouldn't all be about your product. It could be about addressing some of the pain points that your audience is facing and different ways of solving things, even if the way of solving that means not using your product or not using your service. TREW Marketing, we have a blog post talking about different ways to work with a marketing agency. And one of the ways that we put on there is find a different agency. Like, it's okay to fire your marketing agency. I mean, obviously we don't want to be fired, but it's okay. It's important to find the right fit to really be able to tell your brand story.
Mm-hmm. Well, what other trends did you see as you listened to all these episodes?
Yeah. All right. Let me pick my favorite.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She's looking through her sticky notes. Love it.
Well, one thing that we're noticing a lot with the LinkedIn algorithm is the importance of dwell time. Mm-hmm. And that's not just, it's how long are people staying? Are people stopping or slowing down when they're scrolling past your post? And are they clicking on your post? How long are they spending looking at that post? When do they bounce? When do they leave that post? And so, one way that you're seeing, one thing you might be starting to see in your home feed is a lot more visual content. And, we've been using static images for years, as something to kind of force people to slow down a little bit and pay a little bit more attention to the content that we're posting. But obviously, like in other social media apps, video is huge. It has to be engaging video. You have to optimize it, use subtitles, because something like 79% of people who are viewing videos on LinkedIn don't have the sound on. I know I don't usually.
Isn't that amazing? 79%.
Yeah,
And to think
yes.
that people put video without captions up
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And,
It just, what a miss.
to my knowledge, LinkedIn doesn't have like a built-in feature where you can turn on closed captions like you can on YouTube. So it's up to you as the creator of the content to make sure that people will understand everything in your video without the sound. So you could do that with like text animations, which is of course great. But if you have some sort of talking head video, like that's not going to work. You need subtitles.
Yeah. And I noticed the performance of our post for this podcast went up tremendously when we started posting video with the captions versus just the static image promoting the podcast.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And, video can be daunting and overwhelming. And I'm sure we could talk about video in a whole nother episode.
Oh, yeah.
But, video is something that can be evergreen, or you can use it as evergreen content. So you can take content that you've already created and then repurpose it as a video. And I would almost guarantee you'll get more engagement on that repurposed content.
Yeah. And just to speak to video being daunting, I know that's definitely a prevailing sentiment among marketers that they have to have this high quality production. But here we are, Julia, we're recording on Zoom and has side by side with both of us. We're going to place this within a nice design frame with a space for captions. And it's a really low effort thing. At the end of the day, it doesn't take us long to produce. It wasn't hard to figure out.
Right.
So, those of you out there thinking about doing this, just scrap it together, figure it out, because this format does work.
It does. It does. Although, as we learned from AJ, they're not necessarily the most effective for ads.
Wasn't that interesting?
Yeah, that actually surprised me, because organically video tends to do really well. So finding that it doesn't do quite as well on ads was kind of surprising. Yeah. However, he did kind of mention that like there are just too many variables when you put a video in there versus, a sponsored content ad that just has a static image. So something to remember as you're creating ads.
And it kind of makes me wonder too, if the content is really well suited for video, like video tells the story in a way that's hard to do otherwise, then I could see where that's going to trump, that recommendation. So I think about, we had a client that has this machinery for cutting metal that's really cutting edge. And they have all these just super cool, almost like geeky videos that really capture engineers and tech buyers right away. And I bet we haven't tried doing advertising with them, but I bet those videos would outperform static in this case.
I agree. Yeah. So going back to dwell time, another thing that's been helping with dwell time, and you'll probably start seeing this in your home feeds, is a lot more native posting of content. And this is something that's, I've heard a little bit about previously, and now I'm starting to actually see it in my feed. So that's posting articles that you would typically post on a blog post, posting it natively on LinkedIn's website, because obviously they want you to use their tools. So if you use their tools, they're going to promote that content more. They're going to, that'll get a little boost in the algorithm. And so there are things like blogs, or they call them articles on LinkedIn. You can post the content there. You can post slides. That's something that I've seen is really popular. It really helps with dwell time, because people will pause and look at the next slide and look at the next slide and look at the next slide.
Interesting.
So in the end, they've spent a lot of time on your post. And you can also do this with documents too. So for example, if you had like a case study that you really wanted to highlight, you could, instead of, using your typical case study format on your website, you could recreate it in a document and then post it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think John Esperion talked about that in his episode.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And LinkedIn's got some other cool features that they're starting to roll out, and they started to roll out last year. One of them is, I think, not so new. And in fact, I think they may have tried it a few years ago and have now made it more robust, but that's polls, which is actually a really great way to encourage engagement. Ask people a question and then give them this really easy way to respond, to give you, a quick answer, give them a couple options. And then, not only do you have data and an answer to your question, but sometimes people will comment on your post and say, hey, actually, I find this option that you don't have listed there to be a better option. So it's a good way to create some engagement. Going back to some of the native posting and features on LinkedIn, they have started offering LinkedIn events. And I think I haven't investigated them too much, but I think it's kind of similar to like a Facebook event. So you can invite specific people. But, like everything else on LinkedIn, if you say you're going to attend this event, now everybody that is following you, everybody you're connected with, sees that you're attending that event. So it helps kind of broadcast everything a little bit better.
This reminds me a lot of Facebook doing the same thing. Like you say, you're interested in going to see a band at this brewery this weekend, and then, or I'm going, and it, shares that information.
Exactly. So that's another cool one. And then one that Wendy, you actually pointed me towards, which I'm super excited about, is they have a native newsletter feature now. So I don't know if that's rolled out to everyone. I think they're probably like starting with the LinkedIn influencers first. But I can see it being really valuable for people who have a lot of connections on LinkedIn, but don't necessarily have their contact information in their CRM. So, and, I guess one limitation is that you can only share content that you've posted natively to LinkedIn. But it could still be valuable. You post some articles to LinkedIn, you post a slide deck, you post some documents, and then people can subscribe to it just like a regular newsletter. You can encourage people to subscribe to it. So it's definitely a cool feature, and you can tell that LinkedIn is trying to get more content native, and they want you to post your content directly to LinkedIn.
The all-in model. But of course, if you give your original content to LinkedIn, that's who gets the search attribution versus your website, where if you repost your website, your secondary content over there, which is not necessarily a good thing for your website's SEO. So just to bring that up to say, as you're investigating which path is right for your company, those of you listening, just really look into those finer details and decide how to approach this.
Are you going to end up competing against yourself?
You don't want to do that.
Right. But it's, I think it's still something to consider. And maybe there's a balance. We always talk about evergreen content at TREW Marketing and repurposing existing content. So don't make more work for yourself. You don't have to be posting all new content on LinkedIn. You can be repurposing content that you've already created and say, hey, I think if I tweak this blog post, if I, change up this video a little bit and post it natively on LinkedIn, well, now all of a sudden you've got a new audience of people who weren't coming to your website before. And then, make sure they have a way to get to your website.
I think that's a great balanced approach, Joya. Good suggestion. And if you think about it, people coming to your website have more context. You need to tell a different story when you're on LinkedIn. So it makes sense that you would want to tweak that content for different personas anyway.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, what else stood out to you? This is great so far.
I know. And now that I'm like sitting here and talking with you about it, it's like, man, I did learn a lot from this series. So I'm really excited. So one of the big things that I noticed in every single episode is people are talking about authenticity. And, it does go back to what we were saying earlier about how LinkedIn is primarily, first and foremost, they're a networking site. And especially in a B2B space like we're in, it's so easy to forget that you are selling to people. People sell to people. It's not, brands don't sell to people. People buy from the people behind the brands, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. So I'm more likely to trust someone who's engaged with me and had a conversation and been vulnerable. In fact, one of my personal best LinkedIn posts ever was, I lost my job a little over a year ago, and I went on LinkedIn and I was like, hey, I lost my job. I'm stressed out about it, but I'm really excited for new opportunities. And I had people connecting with me and saying, hey, I might have an opportunity for you over here, or hey, I might have an opportunity for you over here. And it's just, being raw, being vulnerable it works. People respond to that. And so, that that actually kind of leads into one of the biggest trends that I've noticed, and a big recommendation that a lot of the guests have shared is that you need to empower your employees. Your employees are your brand ambassadors, and these are the people that people are going to respond to. You can, a personal profile gets a lot more exposure than a brand profile. So for example, I was looking at one of the brands that we work with today, and the company page at the time only had like 600 some odd followers. And then I looked at their top 3 executives, and each of them have like 700 or 800 followers. So imagine how many more people you'll reach when having the CEO post something than you would having your brand page posted, or having your CEO repost it and just amplify that. And I mean, like it or not, a lot of your followers on your brand page are your employees. So you're not always reaching like
such a good point.
Exactly. You're not always reaching like your buyers from your brand page, but your CEO or your salespeople are going to be connected with your prospects, and that's a good way to reach them. So in order to empower your employees, we recommend training them. So, show them how to post on LinkedIn, like show them the basics of how to post on LinkedIn, and, give them content, show them, hey, this is where you can draw content from. And then, draw your red lines, define those do not cross lines, but then trust them, focus on your executives and your subject matter experts and your sales team. They're the people that people trust. When someone sits down to talk to you about potentially doing business with you, who are they talking to? Who are they asking questions? Who do they want to talk to?
Yeah. Who is serving as the face of the business already?
Exactly. Sometimes that top engineer is, in a normal sales context, you might not have access to that top engineer to ask them those questions. Mm-hmm. But if you make that top engineer, a face of your company, there's an opportunity for them to ask those hard questions.
Yeah. It reminds me of contrasting, and I know automation came up a lot as sort of like the devil. And so,
which is like makes us as marketers go, oh
no. but in this standpoint, when I think about it, it's really easy to automate, a blog post went live on our site. It's automatically shared on our company page. But the issue is there's no point of view, right? It's just, hey,
there's no context.
Go read it. Yeah, there's no context. There's nothing exciting. Now, the title of the blog post might be exciting, and that might sort of convert, but I bet you the conversions are way higher. In fact, we know they are when you have one of these company spokesperson give their point of view, talk about why it's important, and then share it.
Reshare your brand content, but give it some context. Tell people why they should read it. Why should you even pay attention to it? So it's definitely an opportunity. I know I'm kind of combining 2 ideas from 2 different brands that we work with. One of them, they have a healthy competition between their CEO and their biz dev guy. And they kind of compete. They both reshare content. that the brand creates, and they kind of compete who can get more likes, who can get more
Oh,
comments.
cool.
And then we have this other brand that we're working with that they have this cool like employee incentive program where like, if somebody does some really good work, you award them these points, and then they can use them on this website to buy swag that has like the brand name on it and everything. And I was like, oh, you could apply that to LinkedIn. It'd be perfect.
Heck yeah. And easy to measure. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I like that a lot. So are they kicking that off?
So they've already kicked off their incentive program, but they haven't, I haven't convinced them yet to use LinkedIn as another possible area where they can earn points.
Okay. Well, it's a great idea. Love that.
Yeah.
Love
yeah.
that. All right. What else do you have for me?
I think just engagement. We keep talking about it again and again. Building followers, as John Asperian said in our first episode, building followers is a slow burn. So you got to keep at it. You got to be consistent. You got to be authentic. You got to engage with people. You have to respond to comments. You have to share content that's not just your own content. It has to be relevant to your audience.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I think one of the surprising, but it makes sense things that I heard, and I believe it's from Scott Ingram when he talked about his algorithm surrounding engagement.
Oh yeah, I tried to.
He's explaining it, and it's basically this formula where you take all the people that you're connected to, and you see what percent are engaging with you, or that you inspire to engage. And I think about all of the sales outreach, the people that are just spamming me, and I may just begrudgingly say, okay, I'll add you. Okay, I'll add you, because I don't want to be rude. I don't want to offend someone. Right. But at the end of the day, I don't really care about their feeds because they're not that close to my ecosystem. And they're never going to interact with mine. So I'm in the mode of purging. I kind of want to cut the number of people I'm connected with and really get it down to people that I'm excited to engage with and that are excited to engage with me, and we can mutually help each other. Right. So
absolutely. And that really, again, comes back to authenticity. Are your connections authentic? One thing that John Asperian mentioned in his episode, which I actually tested it on him and it worked. He said he has a secret word in his About Us profile, which was actually, maybe I shouldn't give away.
Yeah, don't say what it is.
I won't give it away. But it helps him make sure that those connections are authentic, because he can tell that you read through his profile before you tried to connect with him. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And these faux personalization where we have a lot of mutual whatever. I have noticed that more and more. So, Susan Tatum, she came on to just talk about stopping the sales noise, and the sales automation here, it's got to go. It's not working on anyone. So
it's so tempting to use it, and us as marketers, we use automation for different tasks too, but you can't over automate it. You have to be personal about it.
Yeah. Well, one thing we haven't touched on yet much is the role of advertising. And, at TREW Marketing, we work with highly technical brands. There's not a huge ecosystem of potential buyers because what they do is so targeted and niche. And we've long used LinkedIn advertising because you can be so prescriptive. And so it's exciting to have AJ on to just talk about combining general best practices with someone who just lives and breathes advertising day in and day out. And then have Aaron come on and say, that's great, AJ, but here's what a small budget did for this really witchy product. So solution. I found those to be
contrast. Yeah. But you know what? I think you can still, you can still borrow tools and tips from both.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you really have to, we say this at TREW all the time, test things out. And that's really the only way you can figure out what works for you and for your brand and for the size of your company.
Yeah, I really liked AJ's tip on utilizing the text ads that are super cheap with the imagery ads, which are more expensive, but with the text ads supporting them, you have a greater awareness, and he was able to boost his conversion results.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a no-brainer for maybe a 10% budget jump, which isn't much of a dump. That's pretty incremental to be able to see a big change in conversion.
Yeah, that one really surprised me because I've always been kind of like, text ads, like who pays attention to those? I don't pay attention to the side of the screen.
That's so Google 2004.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is perfect. What a great recap. And any other takeaways that we haven't touched on? You've been pretty darn thorough, Miss Julia.
I think I've run out of sticky notes. So,
okay, well, good. You can clean up your space the rest of the day. We did it. For those of you watching and listening, if you haven't yet listened to these episodes, you can go to it's TREWmarketing.com/podcast/LinkedIn-miniseries. And we have all of these episodes in one place for you to go access. And I'll be sure to put that link in today's show notes as well. And go take a listen, jump into the ones that sound interesting to you, but all of them had very practical and inspiring advice for being better with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And Julia, I think we should make this an annual thing. I think that LinkedIn continues to innovate. There's more things we can all learn. So I may have to bring you back on next March and repeat the same thing all over again. Are you game?
I'm game.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit TREWmarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.